Okay, guys, our today's topic is apiculture. So let us first define what is apiculture. So apiculture is a rearing of honeybees. Honeybees for production of, or we'll write it like this: rearing of honeybees in artificial hives. Artificial hives for production of production of honey at commercial level. At commercial level. So rearing of honeybees in artificial hives for production of honey at commercial level. This is known as apiculture. So for apiculture, we need a species of the honeybee. So there are different species of honeybees which give different yields. So first we will have a look. What are the different species of honeybees and what is their yield? Then we will select a specific species. So there are different species of honeybees. For example, there is a species known as Apis dorsata. Apis dorsata. It is commonly known as giant honeybee. Giant honeybee. Because of its large size. Giant honeybee. This Apis dorsata, it gives a yield of 23 to 36 kilograms. Gives a yield of 25 to 36 kilograms. Honey per comb per year. Per year. So the first option available to us is Apis dorsata, giant honeybee, giving a yield of 25 to 36 kilograms per comb per year. Then we have another honeybee that is known as Apis indica. Apis indica. It is commonly known as small Indian bee. Small Indian bee. It gives a yield of 6 to 8 kilograms per comb per year. Then there is another honeybee available that is known as Apis florea. Apis florea. Apis florea. It is commonly known as small Indian bee. Small Indian bee. Sorry. This is commonly known as little bee. This is commonly known as a little bee. It is commonly known as little bee because of its very small size. A little bee. It has got a very small yield also. It gives 250 to 500 grams per comb per year. Then we have got Apis mellifera. Apis mellifera, commonly known as the European bee. European or Italian bee. Italian bee. It gives a yield of 25 to 40 kilograms per comb per year. So we have got these four species of honeybees. Apis dorsata, commonly known as giant honeybee, giving a yield of 25 to 36 kilograms per comb per year. Apis indica, small Indian bee, giving a yield of 6 to 8 kilograms per comb per year. Apis florea, little bee, giving a yield of 250 to 500 grams per comb per year. Apis mellifera, European bee or Italian bee, giving a yield of 25 to 40 kilograms per comb per year. So as you can see, Apis dorsata and Apis mellifera, they have the highest yield. But we usually prefer this Apis mellifera in apiculture. Why? Because Apis dorsata, it is a wild honeybee. It is not domesticated. It cannot be easily domesticated. And it is very ferocious. It is very aggressive. It is ferocious or very aggressive in behavior. It is very ferocious and aggressive in behavior. It mostly is found in the jungles. It is found in the rocky cliffs. So old people, they use this Apis dorsata for getting honey from the wild. But this Apis dorsata cannot be domesticated because it doesn't settle usually at one place. So it is very difficult or it is impossible to domesticate. So for that reason, we choose Apis mellifera. Apis mellifera, it has got a high yield, almost more than this Apis dorsata. This Apis mellifera, it is a docile species. It is very docile. It is not aggressive. It doesn't fly away from the hives, right? So for that purpose, we use this Apis mellifera. Apis dorsata, Apis indica, and Apis floria. They are the indigenous species. They are the indigenous species. While as Apis mellifera, it is an exotic species for me. It is exotic species. So we have imported it from Europe or Italy, right? While as Apis dorsata, Apis indica, Apis floria, they are indigenous species. They are they are present right in our country, but Apis indica has got very low yield. Apis floria, it has got the minimum yield. Apis dorsata, its yield is good, but it is very difficult to domesticate. It is very ferocious or aggressive in behavior. In contrast to that, Apis mellifera, an exotic species. It is very docile in nature. It is easy to handle. It is easy to work with. And it has got a high yield, 25 to 40 kilograms of honey per comb per year. So for that purpose, we prefer Apis mellifera. And we domesticate this Apis mellifera. We use this for apiculture in our Kashmir as well, right? Now, after that, we will see the taxonomic position of this Apis mellifera. We will have a look at the taxonomic position of Apis mellifera. This Apis mellifera, it belongs to kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia. Phylum Arthropoda. Phylum Arthropoda. Class Insecta. They are the insects. Class Insecta. Order Hymenoptera. Order Hymenoptera. Ants, bees, and wasps. They are included in this order Hymenoptera, right? Ants, bees, and wasps. They fall in order Hymenoptera. Genus is Apis, and species is Mellifera. Right? So this is the taxonomic position of Apis mellifera. Kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, class Insecta, order Hymenoptera. Ants, bees, and wasps. Ants, bees, and wasps. Wasps. They fall in this order Hymenoptera. Genus Apis, species Mellifera. So that is about its taxonomic position. After that, we will see the social organization in this Apis mellifera. These honeybees, they are social insects. Honeybees are social insects. So they show social organization. They have different castes. Social organization. There are three different castes in this honeybee. One is known as queen, another is known as worker, and another is known as the drone. So honeybees, they are social insects and they have caste system. They have different castes. One caste is the queen. There is a single queen per hive. Single queen per hive. A hive generally has got one queen. This queen, it is a fertile female. Queen is a fertile female. Queen lays some 1500 to 2000 eggs per day during a lifespan of 3 years. So these queens, they may survive for 3 years. A queen has got a lifespan of 3 years. And during 3 years, these 3 years, this queen lays 1500 to 2000 eggs per day. So queen is a fertile female and her job is egg laying, right? Then we have got workers. These workers, they are sterile females. They are sterile females. So workers are also females, but they are sterile. They cannot produce eggs, right? Number of workers per hive may range in between 30,000 to 50,000, or sometimes more, up to 80,000, right? So the largest number of workers is present in the hive. In a hive, there is a single queen, but the most numerous individuals in the beehive is the worker. They are sterile females. Their number ranges from 30,000 to 50,000 or more per hive. These sterile females, what is their function in the hive? They are concerned with housekeeping job. Housekeeping job. They keep the beehive clean. They maintain it. They raise the larvae. They feed the larvae. And they are also concerned with foraging of nectar and pollen. So the most of the job of the beehive is carried out by workers. So these workers, they maintain the beehive. They have the housekeeping job. They keep it neat and clean. They protect it from the invaders. They raise the larvae. And they also search for nectar and pollen. So they have to search for nectar and pollen and they have to forage it. They have to get it to the beehive, right? So they do the maximum job. Most of the job in a beehive is done by the sterile females known as workers. Then we have got drones. These drones, they are haploid males. Queen and worker, they are both diploid, while as drone is haploid. These drones, they are haploid males. They are haploid males. They may range some hundreds to 1,000 in number. Their number can be anywhere between a few hundreds to 1,000, right? These drones, their only one job is to mate with the queen. So they carry out only one job. They mate with the queen. They live for only 5 weeks, and after 5 weeks they die. While as workers live for a period of 6 to 16 weeks. Workers have got a lifespan of 6 to 16 weeks. While as these drones, they have got a short lifespan. They only live for 5 weeks, and after that they die. Whenever there is shortage of food, workers they drive away these drones from their hive. They are bitten, their wings are chopped off by the workers, and they are driven away by the workers from the hive in cases of shortages of food, right? So these are the three castes of honeybees in a hive. So there is a queen, there is a worker, there are workers, and there are drones. So queen, she is the only fertile female in the hive. She lays some 1500 to 2000 eggs per day during a lifespan of three years. The only job of queen is egg laying. Workers, they have the most of the responsibility of the beehive. They maintain the beehive, they defend the beehive, they make it, they keep it neat and clean, they raise the larvae, and they also are meant for foraging of nectar and pollen, right? So their number is enormous. Their number may be some 30,000 to 50,000 or even more per hive. These workers, they live for a period of 6 to 16 weeks, right? Then we have got drones. These drones, they are haploid males. These haploid males, they are lesser in number. Their number ranges in between a few hundreds to 1,000, right? They only have the duty of mating with the queen. So whenever a queen leaves for nuptial flight, a newly emerged queen, when she leaves for a nuptial flight, at that time she is followed by these drones, and the most successful drone mates with the queen, and then the drone dies, and then rest of the drones they are driven away by the workers from the nest in case of food shortages. So they have got a brief lifespan of 5 weeks only. So after 5 weeks they die. So that is about their social organization. Now we will have a look at their life cycle. Let's have a look at the life cycle of these different castes. So for that purpose, I will make a tab table. Stage. So first we will look at egg stage. So when the queen lays eggs, these eggs they remain for 3 days. So egg stage lasts for 3 days in all the three cases. Then larva. Larval stage. In case of queen, it lasts for 8 days. In case of worker, it lasts for 10 days. And in case of this drone, it lasts for 13 days. Then larva, they give rise to pupa. Pupal stage in case of queen, it lasts for just 4 days. In case of worker, it lasts for 8 days. And in case of drone, it lasts for 8 days. So a queen is produced from an egg within a period of 15 days. A new queen is formed from an egg within a period of 15 days. A worker is produced from an egg within a period of 21 days. And a drone is formed within a period of 24 days. So the eggs are laid by the queen. Eggs are laid by the queen. As I have told you in that haplodiploid system of sex determination, queen lays two types of eggs: fertilized eggs and unfertilized eggs. Fertilized eggs, they may give rise to queen or workers, and unfertilized eggs, they give rise to drones. So from a fertilized egg, a larva is formed. Then if this larva is fed on royal jelly, it will develop into a queen. If the larva is fed on bee bread, it will develop into a worker. So we have discussed it in haplodiploid system of sex determination, that from a fertilized egg, a larva is produced. From a fertilized egg, larva is formed. Larva is formed. If this larva is given royal jelly, then it develops into a queen. In how many days a new queen will be formed from a fertilized egg? 15 days. If this larva is given bee bread, then it will develop into a worker, right? So a worker is developed from an egg within 21 days. A queen is developed from the same egg within 15 days. And it takes 24 days for an unfertilized egg to develop into a drone, right? So that is about their life cycle. So the egg laying is the job of queen. So it is queen which lays the fertilized and unfertilized eggs. So if queen lays fertilized eggs, that may give rise to new queen or that may give rise to workers. If fertilized egg develops and it forms a larva, if a larva emerges from the fertilized egg, then if this larva is given royal jelly, then it will develop into queen. If the same larva is given bee bread, then it will develop into a worker. However, unfertilized eggs, they always develop into drones. So that's about their life cycle. So when does a new queen emerge? When the old queen when a new queen is formed, it is decided by the workers. If the workers feel that the queen is getting older, her egg laying capacity is reducing, then it is workers who provide royal jelly to some larvae to form new queens. To form new queens. So as a new queen emerges, what happens to an old queen? So this old queen, it goes for swarming. So what is swarming? Swarming is a behavior in honeybees in which they fly, they come out of the hive in huge numbers. In huge numbers. After a queen. A queen. So swarming is a behavior in honeybees in which they come out of the hive in huge numbers after a queen. So when a queen leaves the hive, most of the individuals, sometimes workers and sometimes drones, they follow the queen. They follow the queen. Sometimes workers follow the queen, sometimes drones follow the queen, right? It depends upon the swarm, right? So this coming out of honeybees in huge numbers, in large numbers, out of the hive to fly in the air. This is known as swarming. This is known as swarming. These swarms, there are two types. A prime swarm and a second swarm. Second swarm. This prime swarm, it is led by old queen. It is led by old queen. So whenever in a hive new queen is developed, new queen emerges. So at that very moment, old queen, she leaves the hive along with a large number of workers. If she doesn't leave from the hive on the emergence of new queen, that new queen may bite her to death. So in order to save her life, in order to survive, the old queen escapes the hive and she is followed by a large number of workers. They fly very high in the air and they look for some suitable place where they settle down. So this flight, in which queen is old queen, is followed by a large number of workers. This is known as prime swarm. It has got some advantage. It acts as a means of colony dispersal. It acts as a means of colony dispersal. So when this old queen leaves the hive along with the workers, she will find a suitable place where she settles down. Then she establishes a new colony there, right? So from one colony, another colony is developed. All the workers do not escape from the hive. Only some workers, along with the old queen, they leave the hive. New queen is attended by some remaining workers, right? So by this way, from a single colony, another colony is formed, and this also helps. This also acts as a means of preventing preventing overcrowding, overcrowding in the hive. So queen is laying. This queen, it was laying to 1,500 to 2,000 eggs per day. So 1,500 to 2,000 individuals were being added to the colony per day. So this would have led to the overcrowding in the beehive. So in order to get rid of this overcrowding, this old queen flies away along with some workers, leaving the remaining workers in the hive, right? So in this way, it acts as a means of colony dispersal and it acts as a means of checking overcrowding in the old colony or hive, right? What is second swarm? As the old queen flies away from the hive along with some workers, the newly emerged queen, it leaves the hive. Newly emerged queen leaves the hive to fly high in air, and she's followed by drones. She's followed by hundreds to thousands of drones. The queen flies very high in the air, and she's followed by drones. Only those drones mate with the queen, which are able to follow the queen to the highest place. The queen, it flies very high in the air to check the fitness of the drones. To check the fitness of the drones. Then the queen mates with only those drones which are fit enough to follow her to the highest place, right? So during this mating, this newly emerged queen, it receives sperms from the drones. It receives sperms from the drones. And this newly emerged queen, it stores those sperms in her spermatheca. Sperm, spermatheca. And she stores them for her lifetime. A queen only mates once in her lifetime. A queen only mates once in her lifetime. So when she leaves the hive, followed by many drones, this flight of queen in second swarm, it is known as nuptial flight. It is known as nuptial flight. So for queen mates for the first time in this flight. Queen mates for the first and last time in this flight. So when she leaves the hive, she flies very high in the air. She checks the capacity of the drones. So most fit drones, which can chase the queen to the great height, they only mate with the queen. As they mate with the queen, they deposit their sperms in the queen. Then those drones die. They then die. And then queen returns back to the hive and settles in the hive for her remaining life, right? So queen only mates once, and in her that mating, she receives the sperms and stores those sperms in her spermatheca. Then at the time of egg laying, she can fertilize her eggs by the help of these sperms which are stored in her spermatheca, right? So this is the primary swarm, and this is the second swarm. So in prime swarm, the old queen leaves the hive, followed by workers. So this is meant for colony dispersal, and this is meant for overcoming the overcrowding in the hive, right? Second swarm is led by the newly emerged queen. She is followed by drones. She mates high in the air. This flight is also known as nuptial flight. Queen receives the sperms, stores the sperms in her spermatheca, then returns back to the hive, and then she uses these sperms, which are stored in her spermatheca, for fertilizing the eggs for her lifetime, right? So this is swarming. This behavior of honeybees is known as swarming, and I hope you have understood why this swarming occurs. Now we have to rear these honeybees. Why do we rear these honeybees? That was about their behavior. Now we need to rear these honeybees. Why do we rear these honeybees? These honeybees, they are reared in artificial hives. They are reared in artificial hives. The most commonly used hive is Langstroth hive. Langstroth hive. The most commonly used hive is Langstroth hive. This Langstroth hive, it is having the following compartments. It rests on this Langstroth hive. It rests on a wooden stand to keep it above from the ground so that insects and rainwater, etc., does not enter into the hive, right? So this is the wooden stand. This is a wooden stand of a Langstroth hive. Then on this wooden, I need to rub this. Then on this wooden stand, there is a small wooden board with two holes. This small wooden board with two holes in it. This is known as a bottom board. It has got two holes, one on the front side and one on the back side, right? Then over this, there is a wooden box. Over this, there is another wooden. This wooden box has got two chambers. It is divided into two sections, having many vertical frames in it. These are the vertical frames. This board, this section of the wooden board, it is known as brood chamber. It is known as brood chamber. In this brood chamber, there are vertical frames. There are vertical frames. How many vertical frames are there? There may be 5 to 10 vertical frames, right? Then over this brood chamber, there is a zinc sheet with holes. This zinc sheet with holes in it, this is known as queen excluder. This is queen excluder. This is a zinc sheet. It is formed of zinc. Then above this zinc sheet, there is another chamber with vertical frames again. Again, it has got 5 to 10 vertical frames. I am showing you the details of a Langstroth hive. What is the construction of the Langstroth hive? There are again vertical frames. This chamber is known as super chamber. Super chamber. And it has also got vertical frames. And there are again 5 to 10 vertical frames. Then over this chamber, there is a wooden cover, wooden inner cover. It has also got some holes. These holes are for ventilation of air. This is inner wooden cover. And then on this inner wooden cover, there is a sloping, or sometimes it may be flat, zinc sheet. This is known as top cover. This is the top cover. Top cover. This is again a zinc sheet. So this is the construction of a Langstroth hive. This is the construction of a Langstroth hive. So to keep this hive above from the ground, so that other insects or worms or rainwater does not enter into it, it is kept on a wooden stand. So the hive, beehive, it in an apiary, it should be kept well above the ground, so that other insects or worms do not enter into it, and the rainwater also does not enter into it. So for that reason, it is kept a bit high from the ground level on a wooden stand. Then this beehive, it has got different sections. The lowermost section of this Langstroth hive is known as bottom board. This bottom board, it has got two holes. This is the hole. One hole is on front side, another hole is on rear side. So these holes, they are used by the honeybees for entry and exit. So honeybees, they use these holes as an entry or as an exit. Then this bottom board, it leads into another board, another chamber, which is on top of it. This is known as brood chamber. In this brood chamber, there are 5 to 10 vertical frames. There are 5 to 10 vertical frames, in which these are the frames. These are the frames. In these frames, they fit the comb foundations. They fit the comb foundations. So what are these comb foundations? Comb foundations are wax sheets with hexagonal cells in it, where the bees lay eggs or where they deposit the honey, right? So I will show you comb foundation in the diagram here. How does a comb foundation look like? So comb foundation, it is a wax sheet. It is a wax sheet, and it has got hexagonal cells in it. It has got some hexagonal cells there. So it is like this. So this wax sheet, with hexagonal cells in it, this wax sheet is known as the comb foundation. This is the comb foundation. So this comb foundation, it is fitted into these vertical frames, so that it can be easily placed in, it can be easily slided into vertical frames, or it can be easily taken out, right? So these comb foundations, they are fitted in these vertical frames. There are 5 to 10 vertical frames, so that means it can accommodate 5 to 10 comb foundations in it, right? In this brood chamber, queen also resides. Queen also resides in brood chamber. So queen lays her eggs into these comb foundations. Queen lays her eggs into comb foundations. And it is in these comb foundations that those eggs, they develop into larvae. The eggs develop into larvae. It is in these comb foundations that eggs develop into larvae. So queen resides in this brood chamber. Queen lays her eggs in the wax cells of this comb foundation. This is comb foundation. So queen lays her eggs in the wax cells of comb foundation, and in this comb foundation, the eggs develop into larvae, right? So these comb foundations, they are present in the brood chamber. Then above the brood chamber, there is another chamber known as super chamber. But in between super chamber and brood chamber, there is a perforated zinc sheet known as queen excluder. There is a perforated zinc sheet known as queen excluder. It has got holes, but the hole diameter does not exceed the diameter of the thorax of the queen. So its main function is, what is the function of this queen excluder? Its function is to stop the queen from going from brood chamber into super chamber. Its function is to keep the queen in the brood chamber, only allow the workers to enter in the super chamber. There are two chambers, brood chamber and super chamber. So queen excluder is meant for excluding queen from entering into superchamber. So it doesn't allow the queen to go into superchamber. Only workers can pass through these holes. The hole diameter is kept less than the diameter of the thoracic of the queen, so that queen cannot pass through it. Why? Queen lays most of the eggs in the comb foundations of the brood chamber, and the comb foundations which are present in the superchamber, they are used by workers for deposition of honey. So workers, they deposit most of the honey in the superchamber. Workers, they deposit most of the honey in the comb foundation of the superchamber, and queen lays the eggs in the comb foundations of the brood chamber, so that at the time of extraction of the honey, right, this top cover is removed, wooden cover is removed, then comb foundations are taken out from this super chamber, and they are only filled with honey, and there are no larvae, etc. in these cells. The comb foundations of brood chamber, they will be full with larvae and eggs because queen resides here. Comb foundations of the super chamber, they will not contain any larvae or any eggs because only workers can go there. So most of the workers, they store the honey in the comb foundations of the super chamber, right? And most of the larvae and the eggs, they are laid in the comb foundations of the brood chamber. So for this purpose, we have queen excluder between these two chambers. We have queen excluder between brood chamber and super chamber, so that queen cannot go into super chamber for egg deposition, right? Then there is the top cover. It is wooden cover. Sorry, there is inner wooden cover. It is with minute holes. So this ensures the circulation of air. This ensures the ventilation through the hive. And this whole structure is covered on the top by a top cover. This top cover is again a zinc sheet. So it protects the hive from the entry of rain and snow, right? It doesn't allow the water to trickle down into the hive. So it protects the hive from rainwater, from snow, from sunlight, etc. So that is the construction of this Langstroth hive, right? Now we will see how honey is extracted. Honey extraction. How honey is extracted from a beehive. As we just discussed the construction of this Langstroth hive. Langstroth hive. So it was developed by Langstroth in 1851. So in this Langstroth hive, we have now honey packed in comb foundations of the superchamber. So for extracting the honey, we remove the top cover, we remove the inner wooden cover, and we take out comb foundations from the superchamber. We take out comb foundations from the vertical frames of superchamber. Then we put them in a honey extractor. This honey extractor, it is a metallic drum. It has got revolving rods. Attached to its shaft. So it has got a shaft. The shaft is attached to a motor at the base. Shaft is attached to a motor at the base. So at the base there is a motor. This is an electric motor. It is fitted with a tap. and attach it to these rods or pockets of netted cloth. So these are pockets of netted cloth. These are the arms of the arms. This is the central shaft. Central shaft. This is the electric motor. Electric motor. Or this motor can be manual. This is a tap. This is a utensil. The tap. This is the tin drum. So this is the construction of a honey extractor. So this honey extractor, it is a tin drum. It has got a central shaft in its middle, and at the top of this central shaft, it is attached. It has got some arms. Those arms are attached with. Those arms are having pockets of netted cloth attached to it. So when we take out the comb foundation from the super chamber, we put this comb foundation in this pocket of netted cloth. In this pocket of netted cloth. So comb foundation is put in this pocket of netted cloth. Before putting the comb foundation in the pocket of this netted cloth, the wax cells, the wax seals of these cells, they are removed. How? They are removed by a heated knife. So this is a comb foundation. And this comb foundation is filled with honey. It is filled with honey. The workers, they produce honey from the nectar. So when the workers ingest the nectar in their stomach, they convert this nectar into honey. Then they regurgitate this honey back from their mouth, and through their mouth, they deposit this honey into these wax cells. In the comb foundation. So when the workers go for foraging, they suck the nectar. This nectar, it is converted into honey in their stomach. As the nectar is converted into honey in their stomach, then they regurgitate, they vomit out this honey, and they deposit it in the cells of, wax cells of the comb foundation. Most, as I told you earlier, most of the honey deposition, it occurs in the comb foundations of the super chamber. So when we open the hive, we take the comb foundations from the super chamber. These wax cells, they are sealed with a wax seal. When the workers fill the cells with honey, they seal the cells with a wax capping. So in order to remove that wax capping, a knife is heated over steam, and this heated knife, it is passed over the wax cells. This melts the wax. This heated knife melts the wax caps, and the cells are uncapped. And the cells are uncapped. So before honey extraction, we have to take out these wax cell, these compoundations, and we have to uncap the cells by a knife which is heated over steam. So this knife, it uncaps the wax cells of the compoundation, and after uncapping it, we put it in this netted collar pocket, which is attached to this arm. So when the motor is turned on, these arms, they rotate very fast. These arms rotate very fast, and their fast rotation develops the centrifugal force. And due to centrifugal force, honey is thrown out of these wax cells of the compoundation. Honey is thrown out of, honey comes out of the wax cells of the compoundation. And this honey, it accumulates at the base of this tin drum. It accumulates at the base of tin drum. This honey, it comes out of the compoundation because of high speed revolutions. So when the motor is turned on, it rotates the shaft at very high speed. This rotates the arms at very high speed. This rotates the netted pockets at very high speed. And because of high speed, because of centrifugal force, this honey, it comes out of the wax cells. It drops in the tin and it accumulates at the base of the tin, wherefrom it is drained out through a tap and it is taken out into containers. And from containers, it is then transferred into bottles and then it is packed for commercial use, right? So this apparatus is known as a honey extractor. I hope you have understood the construction of the working of this honey extractor. Now we will see what is the nutritional value. Nutritional value of honey. Honey is considered as a nutritious food. 100 grams of honey. 100 grams of honey. They provide 304 kilocalories of energy. 100 grams of honey provide 304 kilocalories of this energy. So this honey, it is mostly consumed as food. It is mostly consumed as food by people. It is rich in carbohydrates. It is rich in carbohydrates. The carbohydrate content of honey is some 82.4%. 82.4% carbohydrates. It is low in proteins. Protein content in honey is very less, 0.3%. Very less protein content. It is also less in fiber. It is also low in fiber. It doesn't have any fiber, 0.2%. And it has water, 17.1% water, right? So the main constituents of honey are carbohydrates. Main constituents of honey are carbohydrates. 82.4% carbohydrates. Protein 0.3%. Fiber 0.2%. And water 17.1%, right? The most abundant carbohydrates in honey are glucose, fructose, maltose, etc. Right? Fructose amounts to 38.2%. Glucose amounts to 31.3%. Similarly, it has got sucrose. Sucrose is less. Sucrose is 1.3%. And it has also got maltose in it. Maltose is 7.1%. So in the honey, there are different types of sugars. Fructose 38.2%, glucose 31.3%, sucrose 1.3%, maltose 7.1%. In addition to these sugars, honey is also having some vitamins in it. There may be vitamin B2, B3, B6, vitamin B9, right? There may be very trace amounts of vitamin C, and there are minerals. Honey is having many minerals in it. There may be minerals like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, right? So it is rich in minerals. There may be phosphorus and iron as well, right? So this honey, it is mainly consumed as food by the people. Why it is consumed as food? Because it is rich in carbohydrates, right? It doesn't have too much of protein, it doesn't have too much of fiber in it, and it doesn't have fat. It has only got carbohydrates and water in abundance. In addition to this carbohydrate and water, it contains some vitamins in very minute quantities, in very little quantities. Vitamins like B2, B3, B6, B9, vitamin C, and it has got a lot of minerals in it. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, zinc, phosphates, right? They are present in it. This honey, it is used in Ayurvedic and Unani system of medicine for treatment of various diseases. So this is the composition of honey. Honey is used, it is used as a medicine or constituent of a medicine. In Ayurvedic and Unani, and homeopathic, medicines. It is used in Ayurvedic, Unani, and homeopathic medicines. It has been found that honey is very much useful in coughs, colds, and even in fever. It has been found that honey is very useful in curing cough, cold, and fever. It acts as a mild laxative. It also acts as a laxative. Laxative means it helps to remove constipation, right? It acts also as an antiseptic, right? And it also acts as a sedative. If anyone is suffering from sleep deprivation, if anyone is not able to sleep normally, sleep well, he should consume honey. This honey, it acts as a sedative. It will induce sleep, right? It is also used for curing diabetic ulcers. It is also used for. It is also used in treatment of diabetic ulcers. You know, in diabetes, if a person develops a wound, that wound does not heal easily. So that wound is subject to infections that may change into a gangrene. So honey, if applied on those wounds, a diabetic person should not consume honey. It is a misconception among people that honey cures diabetes. Honey does not cure diabetes. Honey is very harmful for a diabetic person because it is full of sugars. So we may use honey in treatment of diabetic wounds. If a person is having any wound on his skin and it is not healing, so the person can apply honey topically on it This topical application of honey on diabetic wounds helps them to heal those wounds, right? So it is used for healing diabetic ulcers or diabetic wounds. It may be also used for treatment of indigestion. Person is suffering from indigestion, the person should take honey. It helps him to get rid of that indigestion, right? So these are some uses of honey. So mostly honey is used, it is consumed as a food by people because it is rich in carbohydrates. So it provides a lot of energy. It keeps the body warm. In addition to being used as food, it is also used in Ayurvedic, Unani, and homeopathic system of medicine because of its some medicinal property. It has been found that this honey, it acts as a laxative. It helps us to remove constipation. It acts as an antiseptic. It can be applied on wounds and it doesn't allow the formation of pus. It acts as a sedative. It induces sleep and it helps us to overcome the indigestion. If anyone is suffering from indigestion, he is not able to digest the food normally. The person should consume honey and that helps, that improves the digestion. It has been also found useful in coughs, colds, and fever. If a person is suffering from cough or cold or fever, he should take honey in the morning along with lukewarm water, and it will help him to overcome this cough, cold, and fever. It is also used in the treatment of diabetic ulcers. If a person is suffering from diabetes and he has developed a diabetic ulcer or diabetic wound, if honey is topically applied on those wounds, it helps them to cure those wounds, right? So that is all about apiculture and the uses of honey. So this is sufficient for today.